Hello, this is Uzamaka from the Women of Remarkable Destiny. I've been doing a teaching series called Overcoming the Effects of Sexual Abuse. And today's session, I want to talk about overcoming fear. FEAR. Fear, the acronym, is false evidence appearing as real. And one of the things that I actually encountered as a result of being sexually abused, I went through the period of having fear, a really long season of fear, because you have to realize that sometimes when someone has experienced sexual abuse, they fear reprisal attacks. Sometimes they fear to go out, they fear to sleep, they fear that, that thing could happen again. And so on and so forth. But there's a scripture that I want to share with you, which is Second Timothy, verse 1 7. It says, "For God did not give us a spirit of timidity." In some translation, it says, "God hasn't given us the spirit of fear, of cowardice, of craven and cringing and fawning fear, but He has given us a spirit of power, a spirit of love, of calm and well balanced mind, and discipline and self control." You have to realize that, when someone has experienced sexual abuse, that's violence, that's trauma, that it causes a lot of damage to that person in their heart, in their mind, in their spirit, in their body, in their life, in their hope, their well-being. And one of the issues that crops up is fear. Some people that have experienced sexual abuse, they decide they just want to be indoors, they don't want to go out because they fear, a reprisal attack, they fear just all kinds of things. But I want you to know that you don't have to fear anymore. God hasn't given you that spirit of fear. That's just the lie of the enemy to try to make you not to find that healing and emotional stability that you need. And it's so important that as you go through your day-to-day recovery process, pray out, pray as much as you can that you will not be fearful of man, you'll not be fearful of women, you'll not be fearful of a place or fearful of a thing, because that fear comes in different forms, for each person that have experienced sexual abuse. Like I said, I had a lot of fear in my heart, in my mind. Sometimes it's like you're walking on the street and you're looking back as if, it's like who's following you, that kind of a thing. But the Bible tells me that God has not given you that spirit of fear. That is the lie of the enemy. So I want you to understand that you can overcome that fear, fear of the future, fear of how you're going to get on with your life again, fear of what's going to happen to you. There's all kinds of fears, and everybody has a different tailor-made kind of fear they're going through. But I want you to know that despite what has happened, as you go through your healing process, just take it on a day-to-day basis, as you begin to take the step to find healing, wholeness in your heart and mind. And there's another interesting scripture that I found in Proverbs 29, verse 25. It says, "The fear of man brings a snare, but whoever leans on, trusts in, and puts his confidence in the Lord is safe and set on high." So, like I said, I also experienced a lot of fear, but I had to learn to put my confidence in the Lord, and I had to learn to pray out. And I ask myself questions. I say, where is this fear coming from? So these are some of the things. What I'm teaching are the things that I overcame, I'm overcoming, and I'm still work in progress. So the fear of man, it brings a snare, because sometimes when you become so fearful of that incident and fear of man, you find out that you're not able to move on with your life. If some people are so fearful, they don't even want to go out. They're like, they're done. They get on the bus, they're afraid. They get on the train, they're afraid. But I want you to know that you can overcome that spirit of fear. It's a spirit, and it tries to pull that person down, to try to stop them from finding healing and wholeness and moving on in their life. So one of the steps to overcome that, acknowledge that you're feeling fearful. Acknowledge that yes, something has happened. You feel fearful of the future. You feel fearful that you might want to be attacked again, and some of that fear can be like as a result of panic attacks and anxiety. You're just fearful of the whole thing that happened to you. Fearful to go to sleep because you have nightmares, insomnia. So acknowledge that yes, this is what you're going through, and then you also have to realize that when you're dealing with fear, it's a spirit, it's a spiritual thing. You can't get a medication from the doctor to say, oh, I'm going through fear, I need a medication to deal with it. There are certain things that you have to make up in your mind that, look, this, I'm not going to be afraid. There's a famous preacher, Joyce Myers. She says, do it afraid. I'm not going to be afraid. I'm going to take a step. I'm going to rebuild my life. I'm going to go back on the bus. I'm going to go back on the train. I'm going to be confident when I'm walking. I'm going to know that God is here for me and God is with me. So, as I teach, as I've told you, fear, the acronym is false evidence appearing as real. And that fear is something that comes up in the mind. It's to do with, sometimes it's to do with the mental health of, what you're going through at that particular time, because you're thinking